Hi, I'm Debbie, and I'm your instructor for our second month of our Wool Block of the Month Cozy Christmas. Welcome! I have something to show you to start with. I have finished my block 1, and see how cute it turned out. I love the stitching. I love the variegated thread that shows the veins, and what I'm most excited about is the quilted background. To me, that's going to save a lot of time later on. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, today we are actually going to be doing 2 blocks. We're going to be doing block 2, which is St. Nicholas. And then we're going to be doing block 3, which is candles. And they both have something in common. They have small pieces. And so I'll show you today how to handle small pieces. First of all, we'll do a little bit of review on our patterns. Remember that this side is our patterns in reverse, so we will trace it onto our paper and then we'll cut them out around it, put it on our wool, then we'll cut the shapes out on our wool. This side is going to be our pattern that we use in order to place with. So, 2 things, if you look, you see here are 2 little pieces, smaller than most. And then here are some really small little pieces as eyebrows. So when we draw those, I like to draw the eyebrows together because they're going to go on our white wool. And then I'm going to do the mouth and the nose together. And I'm just going to cut it out together. That way you can just keep hold of it a whole lot easier. And this both goes on our pinkish wool. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our bigger pieces and I'm going to lay them out. You can see very well through our pressing sheet. And so I'm going to layer them. I'm going to put his white beard. I'm going to take the paper off because it'll fuse a little bit better if you do that. And when I'm cutting, I will go ahead and cut out the big pieces. But these itty bitty tiny pieces, as you see, I'm going to leave those until I'm ready to put them on in order to cut them. That way you have less chance of losing them. The bigger you keep them, the better it is. So, and then we have his face. And then I'm going to put his mustache over. And you see I'm just kind of layering it, what would go underneath. So basically your hat, your face, and your beard are going to go on first. And then you're going to have your fuzzy wool around his cap and his mustache going afterwards. So let's put you on. And then I'm going to put the fuzzy on. Okay. All right. I'm not going to put the little ball on because you see it's just going to set at the end. So we're going to place that at the last. Also, I'm not going to put his nose or his mouth on at this point in time. We're going to save those till last. So what we're going to do is 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to check it. Not quite. Wool is a little bit thicker than fabric, so it may take a couple more seconds. I do use a little steam. Not quite. And 1, 2, 3. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want your fusible up into your fabric, but you do want it to be able to stick. All right. So that is stuck, and what I'm going to do is let it cool down a little bit. But while it's cooling, I can go ahead and add his nose, and add his mouth, and add his eyebrows. So I'm going to use this as a guide. And you can do this after you put it on your fabric. You can also do it now while it's cooling because you need to let it cool in order to get it off of your fusible. So now we're going to handle our little bitty noses and our little bitty mouth. Now these to me are easier to cut out. So I went ahead and cut them out. But I do want to show you two things that I'm going to be using. One is a set of tweezers, and these are a good multi-purpose tweezers. They are small, you can handle them well in your hands, and they are just perfect for smaller pieces. Also, Roxanne's glue, because I wanted, little pieces are easy to go anywhere you want when you hit it with an iron. So it may stick someplace you don't want it to. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue to put it on, and then we'll set it with the iron. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little mouth, and some of these are big enough I can probably do without these, and some of them I'm not going to be able to do. So, and this is going to be one of them. So I'm going to take my tweezer and pick this up. I'm going to take a little dab of glue, like that. And then I'm going to orient it the way I want the mouth. And I'm going to put the mouth right like that. And the mouth is going to be underneath the mustache, right over the beard like that. Then I'm going to take the nose, and I'm going to, again, put a little dab of glue on it. Now, even though this has, and then I'm going to put the nose right here, like so, okay? And you'll see it's going to run into, you're going to have some dimension there, but it's fine. It's just going to run into his face like that. Now the eyebrows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I left them together because it's just a whole lot easier to find if I do things ahead of time. And I like to be able to do tiny pieces as I get ready to do them, because sometimes even if you get up for a couple minutes, you could misplace them. They could jump off your table. There's a lot of little things these little guys have done. Now, as you notice, I'm using what we call white wool. Now, white wool is not going to be your bright white. This is as white as wool is going to get. So it's kind of like more a natural. All right, let's get you off. Definitely with tweezers. And get my little glue out. All right. And then I'm going to place the eyebrows like they have. Okay, and now we're going to do the other side. I'm just going to take that off. And again, I'm going to hold these with my tweezers. Put a little dab of glue on it. Just enough to hold it. And then I'm going to put it over this way. Of course, Santa always has some bushy. All right. All right. So there is Santa. Now I am ready. I'm going to hold on to his little fur ball, but I am now going to take him off. He is cool, so it should peel off fairly decently. Okay, get him started. And then I'm going to come down with the cap. And it does come off, when you are using this technique, it does come off a little bit. You have to coax it a little. And almost there. All right, so we have him off. And what I'm going to do is take my background, and of course I do have it quilted. And I have a center that is right about there. So I'm going to center my Santa. And here it is. I'm going to take my little ball. And I'm going to put a little dab of glue on this just to hold it down a little bit. Small pieces, even this size, sometimes they have a tendency to move. And so I really want to keep it on there. So if I have any doubts at all, I will use a drop of glue. All right. So now I'm going to take my Santa. And 1, 2, 3. Let's see how he's doing. Not quite. And sometimes with this, I do give it a burst of steam. Of course, my iron does need to heat up just a little bit. And another little burst. All right, so now we have Santa down. So let's talk about the stitching a little bit with the Santa. In your kit, you will have 2 little beads or 2 little buttons that you can use as his eyes. What I'm going to show you also is a French knot that you can use for his eyes. I personally don't always like to wait at the end in order to see how something's going to look. So I will use embroidery instead of some of the embellishments you have. And then I can use whatever I like toward the end after it's quilted. So we have these little guys, and the stitches, I'm going to show you a knot. The rest of the stitches we're going to use is the whip stitch that we used before, and also the running stitch, because if you see, as you see, this is kind of a big area just to leave blank. So it's always fun to have a little, at least a little bit of texture where you can just do a little bit of swirly. Even though it doesn't say anything in here, this is time that you can kind of sort of make this your own. And I know for beginners, this is a little bit scary, but you'll enjoy it, trust me. So the threads that we are going to use for this are, of course, our pink, and this is our 1015, our red, which is our 35, our ecru, which is our 712, and then I do have some white because I want to show you something with it. Now, our ecru is going to match our, of course, our white, the beard. And as I said, this is as white as it gets. But how fun is it to actually take white thread and use it on Santa? What happens is it kind of gives it a little bit of a sheen, so that when you go around his beard with the couching, when you take and do like a little swirly, and I'll show you kind of what I mean. You have these little indents here, so I would kind of take it and just draw one and draw two. so it gives your beard a little more definition. But when you use the white, you see that's going to kind of give it a sheen and a little bit more suggestion that it is actually white. If it's not something you want, then definitely the ecru will match everything that you have. So you have these little bitties, so your first question is, how am I going to couch those that they look good? So let me show you our stitching. As I get my trusty app. Okay. And I do have some contrasting thread this time. I'm going to go ahead and make a knot. And when I make a knot, I hold the thread between my needle and my thumb. I wrap it around about twice, and then I pinch and pull through. And I'm going to start where, and I'll point to these. You have a little end which can be a point here, and one here, one here, and one here. So when you're doing something like that with a point and couching, I go up through like so, come out, and then I go through the end like so. And I want you, sometimes you have to wrestle it a little bit, but you see it wants to do it, it just is misbehaving today. Okay, then I'm going to go back through where I started, and then I'm actually going to go up, go on an angle and come back. Go, and what I'm doing, I'm going to aim for halfway through. The way it drug, I thought I was going through two pieces of fabric, which I have done before, and then had to sit and pick the stuff out. And of course, this is a little bit bigger, but I wanted to be able to show you what it is we're doing. Okay, and when I get down to the end, I'm going to go back into the stitch. I'm going to go out at the end of this. And this is something you may want to practice before you do your eyebrows. Just so. I need to come back up through there. Okay. And I made this a little bit bigger because I don't have the magnifying glass in front of me. Then what you want to do is go right in the middle and then come out. And so you see your stitches are going to go all the way across, but you're meeting them in the middle. And so you have, you'll end up with stitching that looks like this. And it gives a very nice appearance, a very neat appearance for that. And that one was a little short, so I have to go up to get it. And 2 more stitches. And that one was a little off. So next time I will need to do much better with my main piece. And then I'm going to go through there and then go back under. And so we have couch it. It's not couching, but your whip stitch around, but it's a nice, neat whip stitch. And you don't have to worry about doing teeny tiny little whip stitches because it's not necessary. And so then I'm going to go ahead and knot this off. And I usually run my threads underneath, making sure I don't catch my needle. It just makes for a much neater background. And for most times, for this, it doesn't matter if your threads are hanging out. But there's a lots of time in embroidery that it does matter a lot. So we have the couching. We have the running stitch that we did before to do your running stitch to your little beard, whatever you want to do there. You can do little couching and with a nose. These are actually big enough that you can make small stitches. With your nose and your mouth, it kind of looks a little funny if you meet everything there. So I do suggest, work on your stitches and make your small ones there in order to do that. And the same with your ball there. Now, I am going to show you how to do a French knot because I think that once you get the hang of it, they are wonderful. So I'm going to, again, knot the end of my thread. I am going to go up through. And then I'm going to hold my thread to the side and I'm going to wrap my needle. And for an eye, I may wrap it about 3 times. And then I'm going to go down the side, my stitches, just barely. And I'm going to pull it through. And that is a French knot. Now, the more you wrap it, the bigger your knot's going to be. Or you could also use a double strand. If your eye isn't big enough, you can also do a double strand and wrap it. But here is 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then take it down, hold it. All right, and that is a French knot. Also on our Santa, if you look right here, you have little holly sprigs, which are just tiny little stitches. And I would do a little stitch that goes from here to here, and then from here to here. I would just do single stitches for the holly placement. And also, you can either wait and do beads with it, or you can take the French knots and use those for your little berries. And do those in red and then your little sprig in green. So you have everything to do your Santa. So now let's go on to our third block of the month, which is our candles. Now we're ready to do block 3, and these are our candles. And so we do have some more. The flames aren't bad, the candlesticks aren't bad, but you see these tiny little berries there? They can be a little bit difficult to cut out, but I'm going to show you a neat way of doing it. So again, I'm going to layer and cut out everything. I've already done it and fused it, but I haven't done my berries yet. The first thing I'm going to do, I'll move this side. That would be disastrous. First thing I'm going to do is actually measure those little berries. And I have a little ruler that I'm going to put there. And it is going to measure about 1/4 inch. So, and that's kind of small to do a circle that's actually going to look like a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wool and I'm actually going to cut 1/4 inch strip. Yes, people, this is really like what my sewing room is. Sometimes I find the stuff, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that will be laughing with me. So what I'm going to do is take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut my strip at 1/4 inch. And then I need 5 little berries, so I'm going to cut 1. And 2. And you see how small, imagine trying to do a circle like this. And if you want, you could cut it just a wee bit bigger. I tried to do as close to the pattern as possible. Okay, but you're saying, okay, so now we have 5 little squares, so how do we get them to look round? And note, you do have plenty of wool that you can practice with this. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors. I'm going to take this with my tweezers, and I'm going to nip in. So I'm going to nip that one. And if you don't like it the first time, you have more you can play with. And I'm going to nip this. And I'm going to nip this. And I'm going to nip this. You see? Now, it's not perfect, but I'm going to show you a technique that's going to bring those in a little bit, but it's going to be a whole lot easier to do it this way than to try to cut circles. So what I'm going to do is take my pattern, and I see that I have a group of 3 right here. So again, I'm going to take my glue, and I'm going to put it on, just a dab, and I'm going to set it right in there, like that. And I'm just going to let it dry. Then I'm going to pick up the next one. I'm going to do a little nip. And notice I'm doing this without the magnifying glass today, and I'm doing very much better, but the light and magnifying glass does help you see things a little bit bigger, which actually you have no idea how well it helps in trying to do this. Okay, so again, another little dab. Now, you note that I probably get glue on these, so I do suggest that after you use these, do wash them. And you can use some hot soapy water, and it takes the glue off. All right, so let's go ahead and do another one. It doesn't take long to do these. If you do want to try cutting them in a circle, you can. It's just I have found over the years that when I'm doing tiny stuff like this is much better. And then I'm going to, again, there's one under here. And if you don't get them placed exactly right, this is your project. And you can do different things to make it your project so it doesn't look like a whole bunch of the same cookie cutter that other people have. When it comes to applique, I do encourage people to make things their own. All right. And then I'm going to put another one here. And here's my last one. And it's always good when you start these to go ahead and do them, because these are little pieces that you can lose. Okay. And you're going to say, well, mine aren't exactly round, but I will show you a technique where they are going to be a little round. And this one, oh, come here, baby, don't do that. He jumped. And so I'm actually going to put this down here a little bit. I think it makes a little bit better grouping. And so then I will let those dry, and then they'll be ready for embroidery. Okay, let's set this over here. The threads that we are going to be using for this is a really neat variegated yellow, which is really nice to go around your flames. I would do a whip stitch with the flames, and I'm going to show you another one. This is 4002. This is the light green that we'll be using, and this is 1001, and you see how nicely it matches. This is your darker green, which is 1271, and this matches your dark. Now, you do have veins in your leaves. You can either do your light on your dark and your dark on your light, or you can use the thread that we used before and for the veins in your leaves. It's totally up to you, whichever you want to do. You have, this is 1181, and this will go for your candles, and then you need 0035 for your berries. Okay, so the stitches. I'm going to show you a blanket stitch today, because I really do like using blanket stitches when you have long, straight, and just more defined areas. You have the thread on the side, which gives you that straightness, which is nice. You might ask, why not use the couching? What's the difference between using the couching and using the blanket stitch? The blanket stitch, as I said, has this nice straight, you have a thread on the side, and it gives you some straightness. Your couching gives you more a fuzzy little look. And if you look at our first block, you see how you cut, it's not a straight line, it's just more a fuzzy, nice look to it. Your beard, I would definitely do a couching. Your hat, I would couch it, not couch it, I'm sorry, whip stitch it. I have couching on my brain this morning. I would do the whip stitch on the beard. I would do the whip stitch pretty much all on your Santa. But if you want to try to do a blanket stitch, if you want something that's a little more delineated, please feel free and do that. So, to show you, first of all, there are two stitches that we do want to do. One is, this is a little bit bigger, but I want to show you how to handle those little berries. And it's basically, it can be called a spoke stitch, but it's basically a whip stitch. It's just where we stop and end. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in the center of my berry. Okay. And I'm going to come out, I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to go over, I'm not going to go through it, through any of the wool, and then I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to go back through the center. And the idea and the practice is to go through the center of your berry. Excuse me, I do have to rethread this. This is what you get. Ah, all right. So again, go out, and I try to go about equidistance from here to here to the next one. The trick is to go up through the center, and that's where you want to aim. Now, the thread you're going to be using for the berries matches the berries very well. So if you're not totally on the center, it'll be fine. Now there's a little peaky, and as you're doing it, you can pull some of these things in a little bit, where you can actually give it more an illusion of being round. Of course, it doesn't want to play. And you go all the way around. And if it's not exactly, that's a little over much, so I'm going to bring it over there. And the wool's going to hold it a little bit. Okay. And then you end up right over there. And so this is a nice way. It gives us some texture, but it's also a nice way to hold your berries in place. Okay. The next stitch we're going to do, and I need to do a little bit more thread, is going to be the blanket stitch. And yeah, that'll show. I like the caps on the sulky because I can pop them up and go ahead and take my thread out that I want to use. And I want to use no more than about an 18-inch length. And then I'm going to run it back through and cap it. And this kind of holds my thread in place. It makes it very nice. See if I can do this again. Come on, baby. As you get older eyes, you can't always hit that just right. And then sometimes you luck out. That's why they have needle threaders and other things to help us. Again, make my knot, pinch, put my thread between my thumb and my needle, put it around a couple times, pinch it. So, to start, I'm going to go on the outside like so. And then I like to work toward me. It makes it much easier. I am going to go down like so. And how far you go down is how far you're going to go over. This is a large stitch. It's good to practice with. It's good to see. A smaller stitch, you may have to work with some of the stuff. It may be more appropriate. You see, as I'm doing it, my thread is over here. I'm coming up underneath at the side, and I'm pulling it through. So now I'm working toward the corner, and I really do want to show you how to handle corners or even little spiky pieces. And so I'm going to come down, and when I get to about the width from here to the corner, I am going to go back into the stitch I had before and then come to the end like so. And then I'm going to come back and go to the corner
And that just makes a nice little way to have your corner turn. And then I'm going to go back down. Of course, I'm getting my stitches a little bit bigger. And all the way to the end. Once you get to where you're going, then just take and go on the side of where you were, and this is important in order to pull it so that your stitch looks the same. Okay, and then knot it in the back. Okay, so this is a new stitch. These are 2 stitches that you can use for your block 3, and all I can say is happy fusing, happy cutting, happy stitching, and enjoy the journey. Until next time, I'll see you for month 3.